Hi, I'm Nan Simonson, and I wrote Aging Powerfully because we all can age with power when we make certain decisions. And the decisions that I talk about in my book are based on the information that is offered by the College of Lifestyle Medicine. Lifestyle medicine is the fastest growing board certification among physicians, and there are pillars of health that I talk about. Well, one of the things that we talk about is the pillar of resilience, and that's prioritizing sleep, but that's also managing stress. And one of the ways that we can manage stress is by keeping a good, solid, positive attitude. And how do we keep a positive attitude? By acknowledging our strength, by acknowledging the things that we do right. And the question that I'm asking this week with the group that meet for PowerPoint discussion, points of interest that relate to lifestyle as medicine, is what are your proudest wins? And what are the secrets behind the successes of those wins? If we can focus on the things that we do right and then learn what, or at least acknowledge, or maybe embrace the things that we did to make those things work, we can not only keep our self-confidence up, we can keep a equanimity of mood, but we can also duplicate that and duplicate it for our future. So I ask the question of the group, and we're going to discuss it, but I'm going to ask the question of anyone listening to this. What are your proudest wins? And what are the secrets behind those? I've talked about these things before, and sometimes examples are helpful. So I look back at the things in my life that worked. Well, I had a 40-year marriage that worked, but we're not talking about that. I have a 46-year-old son and his life is good, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the proudest moments that I created through, I'll say, ingenuity and or whatever. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. Well, some of them include the company that, and this took up a good part of my life from the time my son was 4 months old and I went to a Tupperware party and because for the first time in my life since I was 11, and began babysitting, I wasn't earning my own money and I was home all day and I felt I needed something more. My son was 4 months old, went to this Tupperware party. They said, "Hey, you should sell." And I said, "Oh, okay." And it resonated with me to be representing something that I believed in. I love to cook, love spending time in the kitchen, and there was a product I liked and I believed in. So it became very easy not only to sell it, but to encourage other people to do the same. And so I built this big team. I earned the company car within 5 months and drove that for the next, well, what should I say, 8 years until they offered me my own franchise. And my husband quit his engineering. He was a superintendent, the city of LA, and he was one of the top superintendents. He quit that to sell plastic. Isn't that great? And so we did that, and we did it for 20 years as what they called distributors. We had our own warehouse, etc. Well, how did I get so good at this? What was the point? My what I learned, what I did at that time, because I didn't have confidence at all in speaking. I didn't have confidence in myself. I'm my detriments include that I actually had this clinically evaluated in my 50s, but I knew it all along. There was something wrong, that I am clinically dyslexic and have ADHD. So my brain just tends to kind of fly around and wander. Oops, sorry. And some people say, and because you're left-handed, you do things differently. So I've got all that packaged stuff, and I didn't fit into any molds, So I didn't see the value of who and what I was. Well, I found that this was it. I could speak to people, I could encourage people, I could build people. Well, what I learned to do to make that really happen is that I learned to look at people that I admired. And if you've read my book, that's part of the secret of my getting through a very troubled um, period of young years. And that was that I would look at somebody that I admired and think, I can maybe do that. Or somebody would say something uplifting, and I would think, now I'll live up to that. So in those years, the secret of success was to see anybody at any level that I admired and study them and watch them and emulate them until I could get that degree of success, and then I'd find somebody else, and then I'd find somebody else. Well, that led to our company being one of the top companies of Tupperware franchisees in the world, not just one of the top in the nation, but in the world. Well, then I retired and I went into landscape design. Well, I didn't mean to. My husband and I, when we were distributors, bought a 2.25 acre piece of property. It was our dream house. And I decided we're going to make this into a botanic garden. I'd never done much gardening before, but I'd gone to garden tours and I liked what I saw. And so I started attaching myself to people who were really good at gardening, going to garden tours, became a master gardener through the California university system, a certified master gardener. And my husband did the same thing. And we created on this 2.25 acres such a noteworthy garden. And everything was labeled just like a botanic garden, that we were on a garden tour. It took 2 years for it to develop to that point, but on a garden tour every year for the rest of our time in that home. And that was an additional 10 years. People would come and photograph. I was in Sunset Magazine twice, cover of LA Times calendar because of this gorgeous garden. How did I do that? I did a deep dive into what was a successful garden. We even went to England and went to all the famous gardens, his Sissinghurst and Great Dixter and Hidcote. And if you know gardens, you know those gardens. And learned and learned and learned, then applied and applied and applied, and then decided I owe it to people to show them how to do that. So I created a class series. Well, when I retired from Tupperware, what was I going to do? I was going to design gardens. Somebody said, Nan, your garden was so beautiful. Would you design one for me? I learned to design a year or two later, the actual writing out of a design by taking a course at a city college. That's where they found, or that's where we had the testing done and realized that, yes, I was clinically dyslexic and ADHD. The point being a deep dive into something that I admired others doing, and then learn to do it. And then with the willingness to give back, because in order to become a master gardener, you're giving 50 hours of volunteer work a year. Well, I ended up with so many hours that I became a honorary master gardener forever. Because I gave thousands of hours and created those classes. And as a landscape designer, I was very successful. My gardens were earning Waterwise Garden Tour or Waterwise Garden awards when our city was doing that. And then this last iteration, I was getting too old to spend that much time going up and down hills, creating the plans and being that much in the sun and all of that. I didn't want to do that. And so at what year would that have been? 67, 68. I decided to design the inside instead of the outside of things and became a health coach. And that's where I am now, 5 years into that. 2 years after that, I wrote Aging Powerfully because I was so inspired by what I saw health look like in people who were broken, but who took a pattern of behavior, and that was based on those pillars of health: from the College of Lifestyle Medicine. Nutrition, the recommendation is whole food, plant-based. Movement, at least 150 hours a week. Minimum, but there's more to movement than that. Community, we must have others in our life. We're tribal people, and we break down without that, break down in a lot of ways. And then resilience, which is our prioritizing sleep and stress management, which I mentioned. So I look at all of that and I say to myself, I know who I am based on these past successes and the secrets of those successes, so that if anything stopped me where I was now, but it won't, because as stated in my book, my mission now is to take what I know and what I believe through the end of my years. I'm 73 now, wrote the book at 70. I see another, God willing, 10, 20, 30 years ahead of me of my championing the reality that the pillars of lifestyle medicine can turn people's health and life around. So I say to you, because I'm very clear on what those secrets of success are, they were repeated in one way or another with added complexity as the years went by. So I say to you, what are your proudest moments? What are the secrets of the successes behind those? What do you want to, and I asked this just a few weeks ago, what do you want to be this year, and how can you apply those? Where do you see yourself now in 5 years, 10 years? Put that age forward. A lot of people don't know that they can control so much, that we do have decades ahead of us at a lot of, I was going to say at a lot of ages. I guess if you're listening to this and you're 90, you might not have another 3 decades. I don't think they've proven you can do that yet, but that's another thing. Anyway, that's all I had to say today. I hope this meant something to you. I hope it was helpful in some way, and I thank you for spending the time with me. I'm going to get back to my Power Agers. If you'd like to look into that, you can you can email me at agingpowerfully that word, aging powerfully, and then with Nan at gmail.com, and say, oh, I want to join the Power Agers, Tuesday, 1:30 Pacific time. And we're going to go back and have a chat about all of this. Take care. Thank you again. Bye-bye.